Test, 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 test. Let's just do it
Hello,
live.
everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. 100%. Can you hear me?
All right, awesome. Glad to be here today as we start off or kickstart this bootcamp. I'm here with JT from the Telos Foundation team. I'll let him introduce more about himself, even as we continue and go along with this session. For those of you who are with us in the Twitter space, it was amazing just to interact and learn more about the Telos team. And even as we kickstart this bootcamp off with an introduction to Telos, um, I'm just going to let JT run through it and introduce himself, even as we get started, as we kick this space off. So maybe I'll pass it over to you as well as we get things started.
Okay. Yeah, sounds good. Just wanted to make sure everybody can hear me first. And I'm looking like in the chat to see if anybody's responding back, maybe in the YouTube chat, just to make sure that y'all can hear me. Okay. Well, I just brought up the YouTube video and it looks like my audio is coming through. So we'll just keep rolling here. Is there any way that you guys can? I'm sharing my screen. Can you all take that live? Switch it so that my screen is presenting. Oh, now I can't hear you, Gerald. Yeah, your audio's not coming through now, unfortunately. Test, test. All right. Got the screen live. Very good. All right. So here we go. Things that we're going to cover today are what is Telos, kind of give you guys a little bit of a background on what we are, what we stand for, and how the network works. We're going to navigate some of the ecosystem, kind of do a high level intro from an app developer standpoint. We're going to take a look at some real world applications of folks that have already built on Telos, both our Telos native chain that we call Telos Zero, in addition to our EVM chain. We're going to talk about some of the features and competitive advantages of Telos, a little bit of what 2023 was about, and then a little mini dive into what we're working on for 2024. So my name is JT Bice. I am with the Telos core developers. Telos core developers was introduced on the Telos chain about 3 years ago. Telos Leap within a package called Antelope IO. You can find it on GitHub. Just search GitHub Antelope IO. The software itself is called Leap, and the software package is called Leap. The service is called Node OS. So you might hear me reference back to that a few times during this presentation as we get a little bit more technical. But it was designed to be fast, scalable, almost feeless, and completely distributed, very secure. Our consensus model is 2/3 plus one. So we have 21 active block producers. We have another 21 standby block producers. Those are the people that are responsible for validating transactions on the chain, and they get paid to do that. So within that top 21 block producers, 2/3 plus one of that group, which is 15 teams, 15 people, have to agree to do anything that affects the chain globally. And that is all managed through a multi-signature process that we might get into later on. So Telos itself was launched in December of 2018, and it incorporates innovative features that a lot of other chains, especially in 2018, did not have for governance. And all of those governance contracts, those smart contracts, are completely open for you guys to develop applications on. So if you want to include voting and governance in your decentralized or distributed apps, you're able to utilize the smart contracts free of charge. So our consensus model is called delegated proof of stake. So, you've got proof of work, proof of stake, and then delegated proof of stake. And I'm sure that most everybody knows what proof of work and proof of stake is. Delegated proof of stake it was an experiment, still is, where we give the power of say what happens on the Telos network to the entire community. So as soon as you buy your first Telos token, or even a fraction of a Telos token, you now have a say in what happens on the network through community vote in our governance system. So the more tokens you have, the more say you have. So this is a little bit different than proof of stake, where people that own the most Telos are then, or own the most of a token, are then able to have a say in how the network is going to operate. And delegated proof of stake, the entire community, even whales, they vote for service providers. Those are the block producers that I spoke of earlier. So the block producers that are in that top 21 and then the next 21 group for the standbys are all voted into that position by the community. So yeah, it's a little bit different way of operating things, but it does give the community more say and makes the entire network more affirming and cooperative. So in late 2021, the Telos core developers introduced an Ethereum virtual machine that we developed 100% in-house. This was not a fork of the Geth project, as most other EVMs were. It operates as a smart contract on Telos Zero. So all of the EVM transactions, which it does most of all standard EVM methods, all operate as a smart contract with half-second block times. So Nathan, who you guys heard from in the Twitter Spaces earlier, he actually helped us author and do testing for what we would call the Baylor report. And this was a closed network of Telos nodes that we were actually able to push EVM transactions to 15,200 transactions per second, which is pretty fast. That's jamming a lot of transactions, simple transactions, mind you. These were simple transfers of value. But still, we were able to produce transaction counts that high, which is pretty incredible. We have a pretty extensive suite of developer tools. We'll get into that a little bit more later. Most of it is documented at docs.telos.net. Under the, you go to that landing page, go to the developer route, and you'll be introduced with a whole ton of documentation for developers. All right, so talking about speed, already kind of covered our 15,200 transactions per second, just on a polygon. People usually come back to us and say, hey, no, Solana actually talks about having many 100,000 transactions per second. That is a little bit of an inflation. Solana actually uses their trying to remember what they're called. I think they're called whisper transactions or something like that. It's the actual all of their nodes talk just like ours do on Telos to each other to verify consensus, but they count all of those transactions that the nodes are using to manage the network as part of their transaction count, which really isn't true. It's not real life. You can't and active stakeholders. That's all 100% true. Telos is an open network where anyone has equal opportunity to contribute and have impact on the direction of the chain. So I kind of already reviewed that through our DPoS consensus method, where you own a token, you have a say. We did launch the entire network with no ICO and no VC funding, which is extremely rare for the time, given what it is. It has ended up causing us to be a little bit slower with development, but we are 100% isolated from any government coming in and telling us that we did anything illegally, especially when it comes to the United States SEC that is cracking down on so many blockchain networks now. Since we had no ICO and no funding to launch the network, it was a completely grassroots volunteer effort, basically. Excuse me. And this has allowed us to grow in a truly decentralized fashion where we don't have to fear any government coming in and suing us or trying to shut us down. So we've got Telos is home to more than 30 core developers. So we've got about 15 or 20 developers that are on full time with Telos, several part timers, and then we also have what is called the Antelope Coalition. So this is a group of developers that have come together, and all of those 5 or 6 chains that I spoke of earlier that utilize the Antelope or Leap software, we all work together and fund a group of developers that continue development on the base system. Now, after you've installed that base system, I meant to mention this earlier, we actually can customize the network any way that we want through a series of system smart contracts. So even though we've got these 6 networks that are all running the same core software, all of them have completely different rule sets, which is pretty cool, that are all defined by the smart contract that runs the rules for that network. Broader Telos community, we've got 1.2 million user accounts between Telos Zero and the EVM, over 18,000 followers in our Telegram groups, and 120,000 followers on X.com, formerly Twitter, all from about 40 different countries. You can follow the link there. Telos.net/ecosystem will get you a full list of apps that have deployed on Telos. We're going to touch on a few of them here, actually just 3. So Qdo, for instance, they're a gaming company that has built some games on Telos that are pretty cool. I've demoed them. Nathan has as well. They've got a first-person shooter game right now. It's all built on Telos native or Telos Zero network, not on the EVM. They've got NFTs for weapons, armor, all those kinds of things that you can earn throughout the game, utilize them in the game, trade them between users. It's pretty cool implementation. Next one is Zeptagram that we're featuring here. It is a music rights management NFT platform. So somebody had the idea of, hey, we need to put music rights on blockchain. And they came in and built it. They built apps for both Android and Apple, and people use that to manage their music rights. Then Apix is pretty cool. It is a social media network, kind of like Instagram, for blockchain, where people all over the world will go in and post their pictures, post social media, and based on votes are able to earn the APX token, which is worth real money. So the APX token is then tradable on some exchanges. You can swap it for Telos. You can swap it for a few other tokens, and start to make some money through social media. All right, so features and advantages. Telos has been 100% up uninterrupted on mainnet since December 2018, which is a pretty big feat. We were talking about Solana earlier and kind of some of the quandaries that they've produced. They've also been down, I don't know, 5 or 6 times in the last year. Their mainnet was completely frozen. They had to go back and restore, push transactions back. We've never had to do that on Telos. We've been extremely stable and reliable without any kind of hiccups or data splits that hard fork the network where operators had to come back and choose a side, right? We've never had that. No front running is a big feature of not only Telos Zero, but also the EVM. If you guys are familiar with front running, it's the ability for someone to go in and see transactions like on the Ethereum mempool and then figure out a way, usually through bots, where somebody could take a trade that they see coming in on Ethereum that is going to move the market significantly and then pay more gas to get their transaction in first so that they could capitalize on that. Billions of dollars have been made and lost through front running. And on Telos with our EVM, front running is not allowed. The transactions are all first in, first out. You cannot pay more gas to get a transaction first in line. So that's another way that we're a little bit more fair. Transaction confirmations, all of our block times are half second. So your transaction is hitting either Telos Zero or the EVM, being confirmed in extremely fast manner. In fact, it's so fast that we've been lobbying the MetaMask developers to allow us to have a setting where we could go in and tell MetaMask to check more often that a transaction has been confirmed. On Ethereum or other EVMs, transactions take 12 to 15 seconds to be confirmed. On Telos, it's more like a second. But MetaMask isn't made to check that quickly. So really, what ends up being slow to respond is MetaMask. It's kind of interesting because as soon as you submit that transaction, it's instantly available in the Block Explorer, but MetaMask still takes a few seconds to confirm. And we've already talked about transaction throughput. Security. So as far as the DPoS is concerned, I know I jumped ahead earlier, but that 2/3 plus 1 consensus method is really what helps to make Telos secure. And then also the voting that we spoke of earlier for DPoS. We do have fixed gas rates. The gas rates will fluctuate very slightly over time as we need to buy more system resources on Telos Zero to operate the EVM contract. But all of the gas rates at any point in time is completely fixed. You can look up the gas rate. It's very, very cheap right now. If you go to teloscan.io, and that is with one S, by the way, it actually tells you what the gas price is. I'm bringing it up right now. And currently, the gas price is very cheap. It's less, it's like 0.007 cents. So it's less than a cent right now for gas on Telos on the EVM. And while we're talking about gas rates on the EVM, for anybody that is interested in developing on Telos Zero, the resources work a little bit differently there. I highly suggest that you read the documentation at docs@telos.net to be able to learn about CPU, net, and RAM. So those are all resources that you can buy or stake with your tokens on the Telos network. Utilize those resources for your app. And then when you're done, you can unstake those resources and sell them back to the network so that you can get your money back, which is pretty cool. It's a short-term investment. We also have a a rec system that allows you to go in and rent large amounts of Telos for resources at pennies on the dollar. So definitely check out the documentation on that if you're interested in developing on the Zero network. For the ESG folks out there, we have a very low carbon footprint since we are not proof of work. It takes very little electricity to run the Telos network compared to that of Bitcoin or other proof of work chains. So keep that in mind. Smart contracts can be developed in Solidity, obviously for the Telos EVM, C++, Go, and Rust. C++ specifically for Telos Zero. Anything that can be converted to WASM, WebAssembly, is capable of being deployed on the Telos Zero network. Again, docs@telos.net will go in a little more deep on those things. Advantages of building on the Telos chain. So we've already spoke about the EVM and how robust it is in executing Ethereum compatible smart contracts. You can take any smart contract that is Solidity based, deploy it on Telos, it will work. There are also several tools, one in particular, Launchify, that I think it's Launchify XYZ. Nathan might need to put that in the chat. But on Launchify, it's GUI-based contract deployment. So if you're wanting to deploy your own token, deploy your own NFT contracts, they have all of the standard contracts there and the open source contracts anyway. And it's basically just push buttons. So you go in, you click what features you want in your contract, how much supply you want in your token, and then you can create an Africa token. You can create your own name token. I have JT coin, that I've deployed. If you're more developer focused, you don't necessarily have to use Launchify. You can go in, create your own contract, and deploy it as a normal dev would. The Telos web wallet. If you go to wallet.telos.net, you will see the web wallet uses, or you have options on the web wallet for both EVM and native Telos Zero. They're synonymous. For transactions on Telos Zero, we tend to use or recommend the Anchor wallet, developed by Graymass. And then for the EVM, we recommend using or connecting with MetaMask. Let's see. We already talked about governance a little bit, application integrations. The low-cost app deployment. Again, this is all resource-based on Telos Zero. It's very inexpensive. Gas is inexpensive. It does not cost a lot to develop and deploy on Telos, which is a key feature, especially in countries all over the world. We do have a public testnet. We have two endpoints that we'll typically hit. We've got testnet.telos.net and mainnet.telos.net. So both of those will give you access to the Telos Zero network. If you add /EVM on the back of that, it will direct you to our EVM nodes, the Ethereum virtual machine nodes, and allow you to make transactions on that smart contract. Roadmap. So 2023 has all been about improving performance and scalability, specifically on the EVM, expanding into a multi-chain platform through the use of IBC, inter-blockchain communication. We have a series of smart contracts that allow us to move funds. We can move NFTs between all of the Antelope IO chains through IBC, which is pretty slick. There's a pretty simple web GUI for that. I think it is also included in the documentation. Then, as far as multiple side chains, yes, we can, utilizing that IBC technology, we could have multiple native side chains allowing us to have unlimited transactions per second. um, the IBC smart contracts that we have are 100% trustless. So they do not require trust of any kind on any network, that any envelope network that we're connected with, which is pretty sweet compared to some of the other bridges that do still require trust. 2024 is really our theme for 24 is zero knowledge. There's so many things that blockchain technology could be used for that people would still want to remain private. So like real estate, healthcare, train tickets, plane tickets, any kind of travel, concert tickets, like all of these things that we could build into the blockchain that we don't necessarily want public, we're able to create proofs for, publish those proofs on chain, and prove that something happened without actually showing the interested party, the other party, not the prover, but the validator party. We can actually prove that something happened to them without telling them hardly any information about the transaction. So this is also going to allow us to kick up many ZK EVM networks, layer 2 chains, where we can, again, allow Telos to be more scalable. We could have industry-specific chains, gaming chains. Say you had a game that, like Fortnite, for instance, that has seasons, right? It's a great example because we could kick up its own chain to run Fortnite for a season, and then at the end, we take the end result of that season, move it all to the primary chain. So where all of the stuff that you gain, all of your weapons, anything as an NFT could be stored on the main chain. And then you crank up another chain for the next season of a Fortnite-like game and be able to utilize all those things from the main chain back to a new side chain. And then just throw away all of the old data, which is pretty slick because, data just keeps growing, right? So that gives us the ability to limit our hardware resources. Also in 2024, EVM 2.0, we're right in the middle of deploying our EVM 1.5 RPCs right now. 2.0 is going to be a complete redesign, most likely built on top of technology like Reth, which is a project that forked the Aragon software and are developing their own EVM RPC. We're also building what we call ZK BaaS, which is like a ZK blockchain as a service. So it'll be click easy to be able to go into a website, say, hey, I want to deploy my own EVM chain, and almost instantaneously, kind of like what I talked about with Launchify, be able to go in, pick the features you want of your EVM chain, and then deploy it as a layer 2 of Telos, which would be really, really powerful for most people, because then you've already got consensus built in, you've already got validators built in, and you don't have to do any of that back end work. It's just spin up a new blockchain and use it for your purposes. So anyway, that is the summary. We will be providing asynchronous developer support on our Telegram. So if you go into Telegram, you join Hello Telos, there are several different topics that you can choose from. Anything that you need from a developer standpoint, you can go to the Telos dev chat and ask it there. And there are typically developers there that are monitoring it and be able to answer your questions as needed. I do not believe that is the end of the presentation, but I'm not sure if we've got audio back from the other side, and it looks like it's frozen. So in that case, I'm probably going to end it there. If anybody has, feel free to jump in that chat that I talked about on Telegram, and we'll get it knocked out. I'm sorry that this was so one-sided. It was supposed to be two-way, but I just don't know that we've got the feedback from Africa. So with that, oh wait, maybe I just can we hear you? Oh yeah, can't hear. Hmm. Yeah, it's not working for me for whatever reason. So I'm going to leave it there and sign off. I hope everybody has fun at the hackathon.